Welcome to Roll Call, the number one Birmingham Roller podcast, bringing together Birmingham Roller fans from all over the world.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Another episode on the Roll Call podcast. I'm your host, Jared Chacon. What's up, everybody? Today we have
Peace.
a guest that's pretty much a veteran in this hobby, and he's out of Ohio, one of the states that was a hotbed of rollers. Today we have Mr. Steve Rose. What's up, Steve?
How you doing, brother?
Oh, good, man. How you doing?
Hey, everybody.
So Steve, I want to say thank you for joining us, being a guest on the Roll Call podcast. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off by sharing a little history about you, man, within the rollers, man. Give us a little feedback on how'd you get started in the hobby.
Man, there's so many times everybody probably hears the same story. You know, when you're a teenager, I was actually walking home from school, and I stopped at this guy's garage, and I looked up the driveway, and there was all this flutter going on in a big pin inside of his garage. And I stopped and I looked, and I was kind of curious about what it was. And the guy came out and says, "Hey," and I just took off. I was like, it kind of, freaked me out, like I wasn't supposed to be there, one of them deals. Well, the next day I go walking by there, and the guy stopped me. He says, "Hey, come on up here." So that was kind of my first intro. A guy had rollers right there and right outside of Columbus, Ohio. Trying to remember his name, fan. It's been so long. Howard, Bob Howard was his name. So he took me up, walked me through, showed me little things. Next thing you know, I'm catching commies under the bridges and, that type of thing. Trading with my buddies, end up with a few rollers that flipped.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys out there in Ohio, you guys got a long history of well-known and diehard roller men out there. So I mean, you guys have a lot of history out there, right?
Oh yeah, Ohio is huge. I mean, at one time it was the hotbed. I mean, there was a lot of good roller guys out here. Joe Rowe, Richard Miller, John Bender. I mean, and then there was just so many more. The Akron Canton area was tore up with pigeon guys. But I didn't at that time. I wasn't really into birds well enough that I got to know any of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And
I was blessed to have a little relationship with Richard Miller. That
yeah,
rest in peace.
yeah. And
Good dude.
you know what? I just want to elaborate a little bit about Richard Miller. I know he was a well known. He's a master flyer. For those of you that don't know, Richard Miller, he was a master flyer, and he just goes back to the Joe Rowe days, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he had Kumaros for a while. He probably had a little bit of everything, family, but he was just never happy. And one day, I guess he met Joe Rowe, and his life changed in pigeons for sure, and put him on the map. And he was always humble, even though he had those birds for years after Joe, after he got them from Joe. He always gave the credit to Joe every time anybody brought it up. He was a good dude, straight
Yeah,
up. He either loved you or hated you.
yeah,
Maybe hate's a strong word, but he liked you or didn't like you. He's a good dude, though, man. I mean, he was the kind of guy that wanted to help everybody.
Yeah.
If you went and talked to him and hung out with him and showed him that you were interested, he would help you for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and he had an eye for those that had that dedication like he did. You know what I mean? And
Right
he
on.
tried to
Yes.
help them out. And I got to meet him. Past few years prior that he passed away, and he
Right.
was just a really good person, man. He took me under his wing and he taught me a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He had a lot of information, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I remember, I flew against him in '96. That was, I got a little family of Horner birds and they were respectable, really the first time I've ever had anything that worked together and spun right and, had some depth. And man, I was proud of those birds, and I had them for a couple years, and Danny and I become pretty good friends, and he helped me out. And well, competition came up, and as my first fly, and Richard Miller shows up in my yard, and I went to everybody's house. That when we started down in Cincinnati somewhere 2 days prior to making it to my house north of Columbus. And I watched and I watched and I watched, and there was just some good rollers everywhere in Ohio. And we got to my house, and I had the option. The judge says, "Man, it's getting kind of late. You can fly in the morning. Richard's got to fly. He's our last flyer. We got time to fly you." And I was so excited, young kid, or not a young kid, but a newbie. And I was like, "Nope, let's kick them out." So we kicked them out in the wind, and they did really good for the first 10 minutes, and then got hit by BOP. Next thing you know, I lost them for 10, whatever. I only scored for about 15 minutes. Anyway, long story short, I didn't know, but Richard had it going on. He was really, really good, in the late '90s. And well, anyway, long story short, he beat me like 40 points or whatever. And but man, what a great guy. I don't know. He helped me out when I needed it for sure.
Yeah.
And then I got birds of her a little bit. I got out, and finally got settled in somewhere, and picked up some Bob Westfall pigeons and started competing a little bit again. I guess maybe 16 or 17, 2000, So, and then he came out and showed up, and I said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "I know it's been a long time ago." And he's like, "Man, I don't know you from Adam." I got one of those. He was straightforward. And, I met him, I had my fly. I actually won the region that 17. I can't remember. It was probably the fall fly, I think. Anyway, long story short, when he's leaving, he goes, "Hey kid," he says, I think I was 55, 52, whatever, how old I was at that point. He says, "Hey kid, if you need any help, you let me know." So him and I started talking. Next thing you know, I says, "These birds aren't suiting me." And he said, "Come up and see me." So that was where I began the relationship. I
Nice.
mean, him and I mean, we were tight, man. I mean, we would talk almost every day on the phone. He would share a lot of stuff with me that Joe had shared with him. And, it was a good time in my life. That's for sure. Hated to lose him, man. I miss
Yeah.
him every day.
So he was like kind of like a good mentor to you. You say, yeah.
He was a good mentor, but he was also a kind of a father figure as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you started, you got your birds, you met Richard Miller, and you got into competition, man. You're competing now, and tell us a little bit about the birds you're working with right now.
Well, I'm working with really, Richard's birds through Joe Rowe, or Joe Rowe through Richard. And then I had a couple Westfall hens and it's a funny story. I had a really nice Westfall hen. She was producing me some pretty good pigeons. And, so I had a loft where I had eight pair of breeders on one side, and Richard's birds were eight pair of breeders on the other side. And when, Richard was even here, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to help you pair these up this first year." So well, maybe it was the second year I had him. So he comes over, and we're pairing all these birds up, and he says, "Hey, take that cockbird, that hen, put them together, blah, blah, blah." And I'd already had some of my Westfalls together, but I had this one hen that was pretty, had thrown me some good rollers. He says, "Hey, put that hen on that cock." and he thought the hen was out of his stuff. So, but when I grabbed the cock, I thought it was a Westfall cock. So I was like, he didn't know. I'll just throw it in this pen over here on the Westfall side, blah, blah, blah. Well, come to find out, it was a Richard Miller cock on a Westfall hen. Threw me some really good stuff. And it just wasn't hybrid vigor. It just kept coming after that. You know what I mean? Because as soon as I noticed him, I pulled him apart. I was like, oh crap, Richard's going to kill me, because he said, don't ever cross my pigeons with anything else. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You've had talks with him.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I split them up. I don't know. I raised I think 3 babies out of them at the time. Still have the two hens. What's his name from Kentucky? Ruben Solario come up and judged our 11 bird that year, and he picked this bird out, and she was, he said he had judged for 11, 12 years and never scored a 5 on a pigeon, and this little bird out of that cross happened to get 4 5s that day. She was just killing it. I think everybody in the yard saw that she was pretty special pigeon. So I kind of veered off and did some crosses, but kept most of them pure. You know what I mean? I got a little family within the family, I guess. So most everything I have is from Richard.
Nice.
But there is that little, what I call the 5-star line, that has started out in a cross, and I just started, I keep putting them back into the Joe Rowe family.
Yeah, nice.
It's working. They're getting better every year.
That Joe Rowe family, that goes back to like a lot of pure stuff from Joe Rowe, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everything that Richard had was straight Joe Rowe pigeons.
Nice.
Which, he was a collector of good pigeons too. You know what I mean? He had his old black line, and then crossed them up with Hardesties, and it took him several years to be happy with them, but once he figured them out, they were the bomb. They were good pigeons. I mean, everybody was looking for them. Everybody wanted them in their hands.
Yeah.
They just fall up real nice and tight.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just what everybody wants,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I found that maybe when I first started working with those birds from Richards, because he hadn't competed in a long time, I found that it was, I was getting some instability. They would look good as babies. The next year I started losing half. They were bumping or having outbirds. They were almost, at first I thought they were almost a little too fast. Because once I started seeing the really fast birds, the next year they weren't there. They weren't making it through. So I think with the cross, bringing that one, or actually 2 Westfall hens in, slowed them down a little bit, but they started clicking a lot better. Let's put it that way. It may have slowed them. The speed wasn't quite as fast right away. It's coming back, but they're a lot more stable and work better together.
Nice. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you and all the guys that hosted us for the convention, man. That was a bomb convention right there.
Oh, that was a blast.
I had a great time, man.
Absolutely, yeah. We met the Mungs up there, and they were just a riot, man. We had a good time. I mean, I don't think and you put labels on people, even though you really don't know them. You see their comments on Facebook and stuff, and you kind of maybe prejudge some people. Man, everybody I talked to was a great guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was just a blast.
Yeah, I mean, you meet guys that even you probably clashed in the past with, but in at the end, we're a bunch of guys hanging out together that have one thing in common is roller pigeons, and it was a blast, man. The hotel was pretty cool. We hung out. I had a good time.
I'm going to say, 98% of the pigeon guys that I know are just good people.
Yeah.
They're not only, good to talk to and share information and stuff. They're actually good people. They try to do the right things in life. That makes them good people.
I hear a lot like online. I hear a lot like, how do we fix the roller hobby and this and that. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I think it's the greatest hobby, and there's nothing wrong with it.
It doesn't seem like there's anything broken. I mean, I think we get a smart ass comment every once in a while on a Facebook post, which could be, just that guy that day or taken out of text, I don't know,
Yeah, it's all
but
good, man. But
I don't know.
we got to
It's a good
see
time.
your loft, man. I was impressed with your loft, man. I really,
Well,
really liked
thanks.
the way
Yeah.
you had it. I saw that you even had the conveyors for the drop-ins
Right.
and I thought that was pretty cool, man. But if you could share with us, like, what is your breeding program like? Like, what's the pairs you're working with, and pretty much what keeps you to where it's not too much, you know what I mean, or it's not too little, just enough, and what keeps your program going.
Right. Well, first of all, I got Gabe chirping in my ear constantly going, "Hey man," because I say every year, "Man, I'm gonna breed for 10 or 12 pairs, and that's all I'm gonna do." Next thing you know, he's over here going, "Prap, prap, prap, prap." If you don't have 20, you're not gonna get bed up, next thing you know, he says, "I got 20." I say, "I got 21." You know what I mean? So he really keeps me motivated, but I just try to work out of pairs that have proven in the past that they're good pigeons and good stable with longevity in them. So it mainly is Richard's birds. I still got a Westfall hen or two around, and that 5-star and her sister, which are the 50-50 crosses. And then, like everybody else probably around the country right now, I got the Irish bug. So right now I'm kind of playing with some Irish.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think
You
I'm
got the
10, 12
I wish
pair.
I had rolled my birds.
I I wish I had the imports 20 years ago. I mean, Brian's out there killing it with these birds, and a lot of guys I see that, you know, uh, are starting to come on that have those pigeons. And I love watching the big breaks, and even you know not needing them for competition, just in my backyard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love to see
What's up,
that.
Ray?
There's nothing about it. You know.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Steve,
There he is. Hey, buddy.
how's it going?
Not too bad.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys, I had to get the chickens in.
oh, it's
That's
okay. Yeah,
that's all right.
we're talking about his breeding program and setup right now, and so yeah, so I mean, like, I don't know. Do you guys have a really bad BOP problem where you guys live?
I'm really, really in good shape, say from the 1st of May and normally up until late October.
Oh, okay.
This year's been a little different. I started getting hit in September.
Oh, okay. So
But I mean, we got to do what we got to do. Last year I flew a lot, and I started flying again after lockdown. I locked down in November. I started flying again in February, and I had a lot of really good luck. I had a couple hitting me here and there, but nothing, like early spring or
okay.
late fall brings. So
So how many offsprings you tend to breed every year? Your goal?
last year I think I put 120 up, babies up, and and I give a few away. I think I give one kid away.
Oh, okay.
I was doing that profusely there for a while. I mean, it was like, Richard, when he passed, he really wanted the guys in Ohio to help the guys in Ohio. So I tried to give as many, and sometimes it probably gave until it hurt. But there was a lot of young guys in Ohio getting started, and I wanted to have good pigeons along with Gabe. I mean, he's done a fantastic job getting those birds in good hands. And, so I probably hurt myself a little bit over the last few years. This
Yeah.
year, I didn't give as many away.
Well, it looks like you guys are kind of putting together a good foundation again. Like when I first started, it's like you wouldn't hear much of the new era within Ohio. And
Right.
I've got to know about John Benner, Joe Rowe, and all that. But
Sure.
then these past couple years, man, you guys are like you hear a lot out of Ohio now. I mean, you guys got a
We're
lot of new
starting to hit.
flyers.
We're starting to hit. I mean, Gabe, I mean, that guy is just, he's relentless. You know what I mean? He is 11 bird genius in my eyes. He just, this guy can pop them off, as well as anybody. And he's hard to beat. He's hard to beat. He will
Yeah.
keep you on your toes. And if you want to qualify in our region, you got to be on your toes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And props to Gabe Glenn for the 11 bird.
Absolutely.
I want to say Brian McCormick, congratulations on the 20.
Absolutely. Brian as well.
Congratulations, Brian again. Kevin Monroe, and um, uh,
Rick.
Richard Hayes. Richard Hayes.
Oh, Rich Hayes. Yeah.
Lifetime
Yeah.
Achievement Award, man.
Isn't that cool?
Congratulations, man. Congratulations to you guys. Give you a round of applause, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff for sure.
Yeah, but man, like I was saying, you got a pretty nice setup going on over there, and an open area to fly, man. It's just a very very nice place,
It's
man.
nice.
Yeah,
It's nice. And these birds are coming, I mean, as far as the 20 bird, I've been getting better every year. Been qualifying, I think last 3 or 4 flies, I qualified the 20 bird kit. Well, last year I finished in the top 10 in the 11 bird. Gabe had a mishap. I was one of the other qualifiers. I finished in the top 10. I was kind of happy with that. So,
nice.
but these little birds impress me. I thought, man, I just don't have what it takes. I'm not going to get there yet. I'm not ready, but they can. They kind of showed themselves. They came out and did a great job for me last year.
Nice, nice. And
Yeah.
so I mean, like, let's talk now. Let's talk about how you're selecting for your breeders is like what are you looking for, and what do they have to have, what traits, or what kind of performance, or what do you see as far as you handling a bird that's going to determine whether it's going to advance to the breeder loft.
This is probably gonna. I like the small typey birds right now, but then I grab these Irish and they're like so much bigger birds. But I prefer a bird that is just day in day out a good pigeon. You can have a fantastic the birds that are always the I don't know the super fast, the best birds that stand out. I'm kind of veering away from that. I seem to have better luck with just picking the good kit birds. They're day in, day out. They're always there. They're never out. They just do what they're supposed to do, regardless how you're feeding them. And that's pretty much me. I mean, I like a bird with expression. I mean, you don't hear a lot about that as much as what we used to back in the day. I like a bird when you grab him up and you set him back in the show cage. He's up on his toes. He's alert. I don't know. I'm probably, a little Richard Jackonet that way. He always liked a bird with expression, but they got to ball up nice. They don't have to be the fastest or the best bird in there, but the bird that goes on all the breaks, that's a bird I want in my breeding loft.
Nice.
And they're good solid spinners too. I'm not saying that they're slower or less of a pigeon, but they're just the ones that are in the nucleus.
Yeah, that they're day in and day out. I mean, they
Absolutely.
always show themselves. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I probably missed this, but so what does your family go back to, Steve?
Well, Richard Miller through, or they're Joe Rowe pigeons through Richard Miller, and then a little bit of Bob Westfall, just a touch. Two little hens that I had in there. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So have you been flying the Irish already?
I flew some this summer, but I'm out of town every day working. Yeah. I've had a really since June I've been out of town every day. I make it home on the weekends, so I'm home 2 days a week. I was flying everybody that I had. I probably raised 25 or so Irish birds this year. Flew them with my birds for a little bit. It didn't, they weren't panning out with them. So I separate them. They fly totally different. They're so much different than my pigeons. And I found that they were doing better, but I really didn't get a lot of fly time in the summer.
Do you think that they have more chemistry than what you've been flying before? I mean, as far as like working together and kind of feeling like, just say there's the setting up and the wing pattern, the fly pattern. What do you kind of hoping for on those birds, and what are you seeing, or what have you heard? Did you do your homework prior to getting them? Like, what made you get those birds?
Well, I've had the talks and I've seen the scores, and I do talk to Kevin McKinney. I text him occasionally. He always does that voice to text thing. He sends you a little voice message,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah,
awesome. It's kind
yeah.
of cool because you can really hear that accent. One thing I do see, I've got a couple of them that really started to turn it on in the late fall with very little fly. Like I say, if I flew them once or twice on a weekend, I was lucky because I was home. Um, Everything they do together, they do everything together. If you throw feed on the floor, they all jump down together. If one bird jumps up back in his kit box to get a drink, everybody jumps back up there, and then it'll get it. They all get a drink, and then they all jump back down on the floor. So it's things like that that I kind of really like, because what they do together. But I can't say that they're better than my birds yet. At least the ones I have, until I need a year on them, a year or two to see where they're really at. They come in slower, um, uh, from what I've seen. Um, they mature a little slower, I think. They don't fly as long as my birds want to fly, which is a great thing. But like I say, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I don't know, man. Like, I've been over with Kenny McKinney. I went to pay him a little visit, and
Right, I
the
remember.
way
Yeah.
he explains it, like what he does is like they're very tight related. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
he went through the bully system on them, and it's like
Right.
you could majority of his birds are go back to one cock, and stuff like
Yes.
that. So I
Yeah.
think that has a lot to do with it. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we're accustomed at times to having, you know, many pairs, and they're so
Sure.
distant from each other. Where
Right.
when the way he did it was very tight, and I think that has a
Right.
lot to do with it.
Right. Well, and I've tried, because I kind of believe in a tight family, as well. Um, I set up to do the bull system this year. With my setup, I can do that. I have my my pins are all made for, racing homers, and they use the bull system on. Um, I set up and I missed it. I had something I had to get away that day. So
Hmm.
like my fifth or sixth day that I was supposed to be hitting those birds, I missed. And I think I got like two babies out of,
Oh yeah, yeah,
12 pair. It was brutal.
yeah,
So I was like, yeah, let's just go back to the drawing board. I open up a bunch and let everybody do their thing. So
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. It's not hard to do, but it's time consuming.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
So
what?
It's
I
like
really
it's like
didn't
you
think.
say, you gotta be like you gotta
there.
be on schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if something comes up in your life, it might be that day that's the
Yeah.
important day, and you miss that, you just wasted your time. And that's what I did. I wasted 3-4 weeks. By the time I got everybody paired up, all my foster cocks were, paired up with the hens, and then, taking them out and throwing them in the other loft with the breeder cocks. And
Yeah,
I mean, it was going to be a great thing,
yeah.
but it didn't work
Well,
out.
that's
It
that's good
bombed.
that you have it set up for even foster parents. I'm doing the bully system, but I don't
Well,
have
no,
it that way.
I didn't have foster parents, but I put the pan in her cage, and with that conveyor belt system, I got the self-cleaning loft.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's got two sides to it. So you just let the cock in and out. He goes in and out. She's caged up with her
Mm-hmm.
nest bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So, they pair up through the wire. They never, mate. And then, you take her out, put her in with the bullcock, and then just return her back. And then after she lays her eggs, then, the
Release
and
the
every
cock. Yeah,
cock in there, everything worked perfectly. Everybody was sitting on the eggs, and then I'm starting to check eggs. I'm like, oh man.
yeah,
I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna give you one more day to show me a spot. And
yeah,
it
yeah.
was wishful thinking, and I never got nothing. I did
Yeah, that
horrible.
that's what happened to me in the first year I did it.
Right,
I just couldn't get on point with it, But now I just
right,
like, okay, now I just give them the time with the cock, and I was taking them out too quick, So now,
Right.
I'm giving them more time with the bully cock, like say a whole
Right.
day or day and a half,
Right.
and let them build the relationship. But bam, mounts them. Then I just started doing that like a day every day. I switch them out, and then they started getting fertile, and I was like, oh man, that's a ticket right there. I was
Yeah.
taking them out too soon, you know.
Right, exactly. Well, and I watched a couple YouTube videos of some of the racing homer guys how they did it, and the one guy said, day 4, 5, and 6 are the important days, and
Yeah,
I believe I should be hitting, day 1, day 2, day 3,
yeah,
hit them more often, and the bullcock definitely has to have time to rest and rejuvenate
yeah, yeah.
his junk. So
Ellis McDonald explained that to me. Because he's like, it takes like the fourth day to the cock to mount the hen and fertilize it, and he says, "Do you know why is that?" I said, "I couldn't figure it out." And he says, "Well, it's like any animal, any creature in this earth. I mean, like you gotta wait till the period till the hen gets like horny. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
you got to play some
yeah.
jazz
So
music, brother.
yeah, so it takes about 4 days till she gets to that point, and then
Right,
and it says it works out, and it's true, man.
right,
It worked out exactly like he was saying, you know what I mean?
right.
And within he's like they'll mount the hens within seconds, and sure enough, I put it like the fourth day, I put that hen back on there, and boom, right
Boom.
away, I was like, man, this is
Yeah.
awesome, bro.
Well,
Yeah.
and then you got it. Like I say, I was using 3 cockbirds, 4 hens per cockbird.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, they were doing their business. The first
Yeah.
day I put them in there, they're little stallions. They all were Romeos, flipping their hair back, and they were doing their thing. But like I say, I missed that one day, and I think that was a crucial day. You know what I mean?
When do you start your breeding program, breeding season
Well,
starts?
actually, this year, in the past, I've started in late December.
Oh, okay.
I threw a couple heaters in my loft, and I had pretty good luck with that. I just put together a bunch of the Irish. I think maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. It started in November, early November. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna raise a bunch of these things because I had some from all the guys. I had some from the from Sue Her. I had some for a couple pair from Brian, and then I got recently started getting some of the Tysons too.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
Which Kevin, him and I was talking. I was like, man, I'd like to really get my hands on some of your birds, and he's like, man, I got you some picked out. And then I was telling him, I said, well, it sounds like Tyson had some for sale. He says, save your money and buy as many as you can. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I bought some of those.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
And it was a heck of a lot cheaper than the imported.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
big time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good,
I,
man.
so I wanted to ask a question about your region.
Yeah.
Derek touched on it a little bit earlier at the beginning, and you guys seem to have a lot of guys. I mean, you have a lot of guys in your region, um,
Yes.
and your region was quiet for a while. So how did that come about? Where I mean, did you advertise or try to bring guys in or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Really, it was there for the longest time. Richard wasn't flying. I jumped in. I think it was 2015 or 16. I jumped in. It was me and the guys in Michigan. And there's a bunch of guys up there. I mean, they got 10 or 12 guys that are probably, I can say that are going to fly most of the flies. And then Richard and I got together and we started talking. And then next thing you know, we end up meeting Gabe. Him and I rode down to Gabe's, and then us three said, hey, we need a club.
Mhm.
So once that started, my goodness, roller guys started coming out of the woodwork. A lot of new guys, or guys that are jumping from homers to rollers. And I think just everybody treating everybody good in our club and staying in touch, and making a phone call to people that stand out and you have things in common with. And our recruitment process is pretty cool because if I'm not calling you, Gabe probably call you, or and we got other guys also that do that as well. I mean, they've done a nice job, um, you know, keeping or getting new guys in,
Mhm.
and us helping the new guys out. the way we do, we're not stingy. If you come to my house and you're serious about this, you're going to go home with some pigeons, and they're not going to be junk. What I mean?
That's the way to do it, man. I mean,
And it seems like, we just keep getting more guys that way. And even the guys in Michigan were like, hey, how are you guys growing so fast? Because it started out first there was 3, now there's like 27 or 28 of us in the all Ohio club.
Yeah.
And our answers were, treat them good, give them pigeons. If you give them good pigeons, some of them aren't going to make it, but for the most part, make a phone call once in a while, stay active. I don't know. We got a great club. We got some of the best guys. I mean, I can call most of these guys that are in my club are my friends. I'll call them once a month, or some of them I talk to twice a week.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to make the effort to do that. You can't be afraid they're going to kick your butt if you give them your pigeons. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if that was the case, I mean, we would all be stingy, and then you wouldn't have any good pigeons out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think these days,
I asked that question because it seems over the past few years, a lot of the clubs have gotten smaller. There's less and less people. There seems to be, and I think it's important to share. How some places are growing because it could help everywhere. And I think you're also right about you're sharing good pigeons between all of you, which makes your region good.
Absolutely.
Too.
Sure.
Yeah, it makes your region really good. So
right.
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's like when you guys were here. I mean, you've seen good pigeons at everybody's house.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, there is not. I probably threw up the worst birds of anybody because I wasn't out to show anybody a bunch of stuff, but I was like, we just came off a fly. I wasn't going to really fly the good birds. They might have looked like crap anyway. So I throw a bunch of babies out there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was trying to not show anybody anything, but at the same time, everybody else had, I'll bet you that you could, any house that we went to in Ohio, there was a bird that you wouldn't mind taking home with you.
Oh
yeah, for sure.
And you know what? You guys have some nice fast birds over there, and I really like that. And I'd like to see that more into. I know that a lot of people are going after like birds that have more unisons and more bigger breaks. But man, you guys have some spin, and I'm telling you right now, I might like some of the houses might seem 2, 3, you know what I mean? But they're there,
Well, you're and a lot of those guys you saw are first year guys or second year guys. Wow. Wait 5 years and see what they bring to the table. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. The guys that stick with it, they've all got the good birds. Gabe shared everything with everybody. I've shared everything I could. I mean, and all the other guys are the same way. They, if somebody's coming up and they're wanting to get into birds, they're easy to get birds off of. And I think that's the key. And I don't know that anybody, I've never charged anybody for a bird. Never, not a penny.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing,
my best birds have always been the free ones.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, the other thing I saw about your region is you guys are fun. You like that.
Oh yeah, we can kick back, bud.
Yeah.
We can hang with anybody.
Yeah, to me, that's what it's all about too. I mean, you throw that in, you got good birds. I mean, man, and honestly, when you start to get our age, you're having a party,
Hey, it's all at the end of the day, we all get our birds ready for this competition and we're nervous wreck for 3 weeks, and we're all stiff and I may not say a word when all the guys are in my yard, but when it's over with, I'm kicking a guy a beer. I'm saying, hey, you want to have a beer with us? And it's not always about that, but the camaraderie that we have here in Ohio. I mean, I've made some really good friends with some of the judges that have been here. We've had a blast,
Yeah, and that's another thing too.
Brent and Jared, shout out by the way, Brent and Jared. Those guys are the bomb.
That's the cool thing though. Like you got enough people now that you could have judges come for almost every fly now, and then
we got good judges.
The extra day because you got more people, so you got people visiting you. You're getting an opportunity to maybe go visit them, you know. So I mean, I
Absolutely.
enjoy it, man. I enjoy, like you said, the
Right.
camaraderie and hanging out with the fellas, you know. It ain't got to be every day, maybe once a month or what, but it's all good, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? We
Yeah,
all,
that's like Shaning. We were standing in the yard, and I could never pronounce that guy's name right. He needs to change the spelling of it. Um, I'm just throwing it out there. There's a couple of us.
Shining like
Um,
raining.
yeah, exactly. But I got to catch myself because I always want to say Shoning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're standing at Jim's loft up north here, Jim Hall's, and we're sitting here discussing birds, and the guy of that stature just is pretty badass to be able to just nudge him and say what do you think, and
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
say what's your opinion. It's
Yeah.
it's good stuff. And we, like I say, we've had some great judges here too. I mean, we've had Norm Brozovic. We had, obviously Jared and Brent came out, and I don't know, man. We've had some good times.
Yeah.
Good, fun people are fun to be around.
Yeah, we got out. Jose Maldonado said having great flyers in your club, does that make you fly better kits?
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to bear down and you got to make your selections better. What birds are going into this A team to compete.
Mhm.
Uh, Absolutely. You got to be on your game. Like I say, I'm fighting. Gabe and I are in real close, and we're great friends. I mean, I think of him as one of my closest friends. Not even in pigeons, just as a close friend.
Yeah.
So, but I know that I got to be on my A game. You know, to compete with that guy. I mean,
Right.
everybody's seen it that was at the convention. I mean, this guy kicks out birds, and they were just, you got roll everywhere. It was just,
Yeah.
a great show. Even, some of the guys in Michigan, Wayne Cumberbreath, he can throw a good kid up. I mean, Ted, all of them. I mean, I don't, I don't know. It'll toughen you up.
You even got Sam
Makes you try
Springs. You
harder.
got a little youngster Sam Springs coming up too. Watch out for him
Oh,
too.
hey, he's got a lot of try in him.
Yeah.
He ain't going away.
Oh no,
And I
he
thought there for a while once he got the engaged, I thought we
yeah.
might lose Sam, but he's still
Yeah,
kicking with us.
she's a pigeon girl, so he's good, man. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did good. She's an awesome girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is.
I wanted to ask you, you guys had just recently had your fly, and you went online and it was on a video that they had you're right there with Gabe, and then you even posted it on your on like one of the posts, you know what I mean. But anyways, you're talking about you had a situation with your birds where you had an overfly, or no, not an overfly, they kind of skied out on you because of the barometer was very
Right. Yeah, in the
high,
finals.
and
Right.
you're asking like what what are some of the things to kind of like apply to kind of prevent that from happening or controlling it. Did you ever get any good feedback from
Well,
anybody?
yeah, I did. I mean, I had a couple conversations with people, and I think a lot of it actually comes down to selection. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
over the past few years, because my birds used to have the tendency, they're strong little birds. I mean, they got some of that hardesty blood in them, which everybody knows those are strong pigeons. And then the Joe Rowe family, they're strong little birds. It was nothing for them back when I first started playing with them that they would fly 2-3 hours. And I think we started selecting for the birds that, when I caught birds creeping up out of the kit, I started calling those. I didn't care how good they were. And I've been able to keep them in my backyard a lot better because of that.
Mhm.
I think it's a cultivation thing. I think it's like the Irish birds, they've been cultivated for
I know.
years. They're a low flying family,
Yeah.
you
If I
know.
know. Yeah.
And Gabe's done the same thing. He's cultivated to keep them birds in the pocket, so to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
And
never.
I think that's the best information you can give somebody. If you see that bird that's climbing on top of the kit,
Yeah,
even if it's
yeah.
5-10 foot, he's probably that little bastard that's pulled the whole kit up.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about that, but I've never really paid attention to it or checked the barometer every like when I fly, and like
Right,
over here it's always like around 29.9, and
right.
And they say at 30 is high. I don't know how do you evaluate that, but I just fly my pigeons. But knock on wood, I never came across that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Well, here, like this past season for me, I was away a lot, like I talked about. But this little team that I called the Sloppy Seconds over the last few years, because I did have an overfly and lost my A team, B team, and I had these guys in a pen all by themselves. And next thing you know, they started to just come on like pretty good pigeons. Um, but what I noticed is, I wasn't flying them as much, so I really didn't have the handle on them when it came to the finals. I didn't get them in my backyard. If they would have been more active, I wouldn't have had to worry about them going up. Like Gabe's bird, he had the same exact barometer, and where he's probably cultivated, where he's at. His family of birds, they're so active that they don't go up. They're constantly
yeah,
working. So if we can get that work rate out of them, I think it's going to keep the birds down. Now, sometimes we have to, like the old Pinson family, we used to have to beat them up a little bit to keep them in your backyard. I think we can probably cultivate that, but at the same time, you got to have time to fly and work your birds.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
a lot.
I think you're right. I think location matters, and
Absolutely can,
I mean,
sure.
even location within your own state, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I'm in a spot where it's nothing for me to see the buzzards. They come to my backyard and get the lift. You know
Look
what I
at the
mean?
lift. Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, my birds have probably went up 3 times out of scoring range. Which is probably 500 or above. I'm going to say feet.
Mhm.
Um, but like I say, if they're working, they never make it that high. You know what I mean? They're 250 and they're perfect. And
Yeah,
sometimes it'll be 150 in your face,
Mhm.
yeah. Well,
and
I
I think
think
over the years
also,
I've cultivated differently for that.
yeah, I think also it's like on top of the like the cultivating too is the way that one feeds with feeds according to how they fly their pigeons. All right, so you
Correct.
have you have active birds, and we all hear or heard back or we read up that to um, get them peaked out, you got to break down the feed. But some of those birds, start breaking down the feed, they'll land early on you because they're too active. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're deteriorating the birds. You know what I mean? And sometimes when let's just say I would say overfeed them or just feed them too much, but you're not flying them enough. Will give them too much energy to kind of
Right.
elevate on you.
Elevate.
So it depends. I mean, you either fly them every day and feed them up real good and keep up with the activity, or you gotta you gotta kind of figure it out what you need to do. I
You
think.
got to figure out what works in your backyard.
Mhm.
I feel that, like last year, I'll give you a good example. We were getting ready for the World Cup, and I had some really nice yearlings in there. I mean, and when I say yearlings, they may have been, late hatches or, you know, mid hatches from the year before.
Mhm.
And several made my A team. And when I started cutting back feed, I made a big mistake, and I started cutting back the feed on these guys a little bit to kind of get them down in the backyard, get my fly time down. And I honestly hurt those young birds in that kit, to where actually one of them actually rolled down after the fly was over, came down, and these birds were solid as the day is long. And I think I really ruined some really good pigeons by not keeping them fed up enough. So
Yeah.
as a manager, I feel like more fly time, even if it was twice a day, and chuck the feed to them, I think I'm better off. And that's what
Mhm.
I feel like evolving. I think that's where I'm going with my feeding program.
Yeah.
Well, I think ultimately what happens, Steve, is I mean, Jose asked a question in reference to do you think competition makes your birds better? Now, of course, you got to start off with good birds, but competition does drive you to try,
Try to
you
peek them
know,
out. Yes,
right, to kick them out, to get them ready, and you, as the manager, you get to see everything that they're doing if you're watching them, and we all know
absolutely.
you have to do that because a bird will surprise you. You know, a lot of guys say, "Oh, this bird's never did that before," but my experience is, they've usually done it before.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I've had, you know, with yearlings or young birds that you're flying in a kit, you can beat up on them older birds a little bit. You know, they've been around a while, they're stable, you know, you can depend on them every day, but if you need to get them down a little bit or slow them down or something, you can take some feet away from them. But these young birds that may not be fully developed, but solid young birds, you know, I had 3 or 4 that I lost last spring, um, because I was taken away from them instead of shoving it at them. You know, I needed to shove and feed to them. I know some of those birds were great birds, and you know they would have made it if I wouldn't have beat up on them so hard.
Yeah, and it's true, man. You know, sometimes, you know, like the way you get that knowledge is by getting yourself in a wreck and figuring out that oh man, you know what, it worked up to this point, but from this point on I gotta change things up. Just like you said, you know, I started doing good with my birds, and then I was reading up about the yo-yo and breaking them for more activity. But then I started breaking them too much that those active birds started coming down early. Some of them were crashing, and what I did was I ruined them. I got them bad habits, and now they're flying, and they knew their safe zone was to land, and it was. I mean, that thing. It was so hard to fix it, to the point where I just needed to breed out new birds and start all over. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of ruined it. Man, I was getting flies with 5 minutes and then landing. I was like, what the hell? They were good last year. I messed them up, you know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
So we gotta
and that's just like
and figure things out, you know.
That's just like the old timers used to say. You know, there's fly fit. You know, you got to get your birds in condition, and then there's fly fit. So you're getting them in condition, and then you get them fly fit, and now they got to be roll fit.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 3 categories there, and it isn't always about taking the feet away, guys.
No,
it really is.
No.
You know, it's getting the exercise on your birds and knowing your pigeons and knowing when, okay, I gotta back off a little bit. I'm being too hard on them, or I gotta shove them a little something else, you know, to get them healthy again. I totally believe that if we keep our birds healthier and not scourge them so much, you know, a lot of the newer guys don't understand what the older guys were really trying to tell us there.
Yeah.
It really wasn't all about taking, and then bang, giving it to them at the end. It really wasn't that. It's out there in the backyard, working with those birds, seeing what they're doing, and being able to adjust to them.
Right.
And that's like taking a bird from fly fit to roll fit. In my opinion, when I'm taking a bird from fly fit to roll fit, I'm not really taking feet away from them. I want them just to burn whatever I feed them that day to be roll fit. So it's gone. They depleted that. So they're up there busting their asses or working hard, you know. So that's kind of where I see how my program is feeding that, you know, I know I can get my birds kind of spot on.
Well, and there's quite a difference between young birds and older birds too.
Absolutely. You can't beat those young birds up.
No, you cannot. And I think that's one thing, I don't know, when I first started, that wasn't very clear. Guys didn't make that clear, you know. You know, young birds, you know, they need everything you can give them, you know. If they're doing everything that you want, you know, flying the time, because they're probably not rolling yet. But if they're doing and kidding and coming down and going together, in, you're doing all those things, you should be good. But you know, Steve, the old saying is, you know, every mistake is an opportunity to learn, you know.
Absolutely. And by God, we all go through them. I've went through them. It's funny because, you know, Richard, when he first started getting birds, he's like, he read in the book, call the birds that are rolling from the back of the kit. And he says, he said, I called all those, and he says, guess what? They didn't have any birds rolling. So I mean,
those are probably the ones that are working the most.
Exactly. So I think that was a timing thing, you know. I think you call, you know, you might select those birds or pull those birds out of your kit after they're 2 years old. You know what I mean? It's not like they're doing it, you know, when birds are coming in, of course they're not going to be able to keep up. You know, the rest of the
Yeah.
kids flying around in a circle or a figure eight, and these birds are the only ones working on there, and you're taking them and, you know, doing what you do with them, getting rid of them. So
So
I don't know.
have you picked yourself out a good team to go forward with next year's competition season?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I stocked a couple out of my A team from last fall. Well, they, like I say, there's 3-year-old birds in there, most of them. A couple 4-year-old birds that I still have in that kit that are just, you know, doing well. And I'm always working on finding them younger birds to throw in there and replace some of the ones I pulled out.
Nice. Do you feel that um there's a difference of what will work within a 20 bird and 11 bird? Let's say, would you think that a 20 bird would need more of a mature uh like a team already within team chemistry on a 20 bird versus could you could put young birds that are coming in on an 11 bird? What's your intake in that? Like, what is could you just take either or the same birds, or what works out better, do you think?
Here's the only problem I see with taking 20 bird active break together birds. You know, birds that are in unison. And then you put them over a judge that may or may not have the experience to see 11 birds breaking at the same time and count every one of them. So that's one thing I see. I see there's a difference between a good 20 bird judge and a good 11 bird judge. The 11 bird judge, if you get a big break on 11 bird, he's got to count every one of them pigeons, 11 of them at a time, and give you all the threes you deserve, all the twos you deserve, and all the ones you deserve, and the speed points. That's a lot to do for anybody. So in my opinion, I think the birds that are constantly working in the 11 bird, they may not be breaking together, but they're always, you know, you always got one coming down or 2 or 3 at a time. I think that makes a better 11 bird team because it's easier to count for the judge too.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen in the past down at Gabe's house where our judges have missed stuff because he would get a big break. And you know, I even throwed it out there one time. I was like 9 birds broke at once, and I was like 2 hanging. And I was like, "Oops, there goes the other one." And I was like, "Oops, there goes the other one." And I didn't hear, you know, I heard 5 numbers yelled out. You know what I mean? So
it could get pretty difficult. I like the way how Ruben Solorio did. You know, he had several clickers, you know, and he was on point on that. But the reason I ask, you know, because you also got the early developers that come in with excellent spin, but they don't quite have that chemistry for the setup and boom. So, but they're active. They're starting to get active.
Yes,
and I think those are great birds for 11 birds, man.
Those are good birds for 11 birds. As long as they're, you know, rolling there one time a minute, I think you're going to score well with 11 of them, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to the 11 bird is you got to have birds that are popping constantly. You know, and the judge can see them. I mean, I know, I've judged the 11 bird a couple times in different places, and I was in North Carolina the first time I judged the 11 bird, and I was at Don Green's house, and these birds are breaking together, and oh my God, I probably missed half of what I scored, you know. And when I got done, I was like, oh shit, you know, I didn't even have the time to throw speed points or bonus points in there. So, and I'm also wondering why we don't do and I don't want to change the rules on here, but why didn't we do like we do in the 20 bird, you know, depth and speed or whatever, multipliers instead of, you know, the extra speed points. Okay. You know, I got one bird that's up there kicking some speed points in there, but he's only got me, or I got 5 birds up there that are actually can be getting speed points, but really the judge is probably only going to see 1 or 2 of them.
It's difficult to evaluate.
So it's very tough to evaluate. Yes. I don't know that anybody can do it perfectly. Yeah. If you got 11 bird team that's breaking constantly together, you know, it's hard to count.
Yeah. Hey,
even
man,
for guys
I'm preparing myself, man. Like right now I'm trying to learn how to count, like visualize three birds, four,
Right.
you know, like boom, boom,
Yeah.
like a count real quick, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
Sure.
it's I
Well,
don't know,
those
man.
clickers are cool because you can click them off pretty accurately if you got a
Yeah.
clicker.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if the bird's only broke once every minute or once every minute and a half, you know, yeah, you probably got time to catch up to yourself of what you're seeing, but you got to almost, you know, take the time and realize what you've seen
Mhm.
before you even start clicking.
Yeah.
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 What's just what's your feeding like right now, man? Versus like let's just start with your young birds, man. They're coming into the row. Is there a certain are you building them up with a good mix, pellets? What do you got? What works out for you on that?
You know, I find my birds work good on wheat, you know, wheat
Mm,
and a little bit of barley here and there. I mean, I like that type of feed, you know.
yeah.
I don't do a whole lot else other than that. And, you know, I might build them up a little bit at the tail end of you know, when I'm getting them ready.
And
Mhm.
they'll be the same for your older birds.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
I mean, you
So
know, the younger
basically,
birds, the ones that are working real hard, they might get a little extra something, you know, a couple peas or, you know, something to, you know, make sure they're healthy. Because I did learn that. Like I say, I think that was crucial to my kit last year. I
Yeah.
would have had a better kit in the fall if I would have taken care of them young birds a little bit better, the yearlings.
do you move birds from kit to kit? You know, as your young birds start to come in, do you
You
move them
know,
to another group or?
I used to be real good at that, but with the time I have to fly birds anymore, I haven't been that good at it.
Mhm.
This last year has been rough until I get my move done or make my decision not to move for my work. Uh, you know, I'm just going to continue flying kits. You know what I mean? I'm gang flying, and a lot of times these birds all look alike. And you know, I got 5 birds up there that got 3 black tail feathers,
Yeah.
or you know, or mixed flights or whatever. I really haven't
Right.
had the time this year to pull them out. But normally, yes, I would put my better young birds together just because it
Together.
makes them work harder and they learn faster off of each
Uh-huh.
other. Gabe yells at me all the time because I'm not doing that well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I
He keeps
mean,
me straight.
it's kind of I think it's not that easy and within a quick time to put a good kit. You know, I mean, you really look at those shiners, man, and just grab them, put it away, and build the kit. It might take you
Mhm.
6 months, a year, man, but when
Mhm.
you got it and then you got those backups with it too, man,
Right.
you could be dangerous,
Absolutely.
man. Like it's good, you know. And
Yes.
we tend to not pay attention to that and not evaluate those to where we put those aside and we evaluate more of the team. Oh, I got 5 of them
Right.
rolling, you know, and so
Right.
we need to, you know, I'm
I,
starting to pay
I,
attention to that, you know.
yeah, I mean, you can't break them out right away. You know what I mean? I think if you're going to pull birds out of a kit, you got to give them some time to be consistent day in, day out, and then start
Yeah.
hoarding those good birds and putting them away and putting them off into a better team or whatever. You know, that's my opinion on it. I think, yes, great idea. And save those birds, protect them because, you know, the Lord knows that, you know, you could lose any one of them in any given day.
Yeah.
So,
Do
you
you
know,
Well, you know,
hanging them
basically,
back and protecting them is probably a great idea.
a big, yeah. I mean, you know, so much of competition is, um, getting a competition team together is time and observation, man.
Absolutely.
You need
Well,
so
and
much
then
of both, you know.
absolutely. A couple of years ago, I had what I thought was my best 2 teams, 11 bird and a 20 bird. I was like so excited to get these birds ready. And, you know, when it come time to get them ready for the fall fly I started working a lot. And so I was gang flying them and everything else just got pushed aside. So I'm
Mm.
working these, you know, I think there was 35 birds in there. I was working real hard and they were really good birds. Um, and then I got hit late in the day by BOP, drove them up. You know, 3 hours later, I get one pigeon back. 2 days
Mhm.
later, I get, you know, got to drive to the school and grab one 10 miles away that's walking
Yeah.
around. He can't even fly. Um, it was devastating. But the birds that I had left over end up being the birds that I qualified with that fall in the 11 bird, and did pretty well. I mean, I didn't knock it out of the park by any means, but that's when I realized, some of these other birds that we put off sometimes are pretty good pigeons if you give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, how much is too much of a chance too? Like, I mean, let's just say, your young birds, man, like, how much you gonna give them? I mean, are you okay with being late developers? And like me, I like to see early developers now. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Yeah.
And because I mean, I don't know how the Irish are. You know what I mean, if are you willing to part away from them if they ain't giving you what you got, man? What you got right now, or how long?
I will never get rid of the birds that I have now for the Irish.
Okay.
But once I learned that a couple years ago, like I said, now my birds may get a little bit more chance. Now, if they're out birds and they're just doing stupid, and they're reckless, or they're interrupting the kit, they're gone pretty fast. But if they're in the kit, even if they aren't working or rolling or whatever, I'm giving them a little bit more time. But if they still have to be a good kit bird, not making mistakes, or not dragging your kit out and doing stupid shit,
I don't want you to be like 14 months later, man, and be like picking them up. I wish these Irish would roll.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I was told by many people to just have patience, and then I also, there was a comment that one of the guys told me, one of the guys I got the birds from, he said, if you figure them out. So that tells you a lot too. They're different.
Yeah.
He says, if you figure them out, you're going to love them.
And you know what? I want to say this too, man. They're different. To the point where, let's just say Kevin McKinney, if those are the Irish birds you have, they're different to the point of where he cultivated, because those birds they're all English birds, you know what I'm saying? And that's where he got them. And so, and he got them off of certain flyers out there that things that he liked. So, I mean, credit goes to everybody, you know what I'm saying? But
sure.
You got them now you got to do what you got to do with them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I think it's going to be like any other family of pigeons you get. You're going to get some good birds from some guys, but you still have to go through and see which one's going to be your producers, see which ones are the steady Eddie good pigeons, and just because you get one pigeon that spin his ass off out of a pair doesn't mean that pair's worth a shit. You know what I mean? I would rather have 7 out of 10 good rollers off a pair than 1 out of 10, superstar.
Yeah.
Because really that pair is not doing their job, and they don't belong in the stock loft, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of what I got from Gabe from talking to him. I mean, he'll give a pair a chance.
Sure.
But he don't keep them around long if they're not producing.
He will move them on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's smart. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't remember him telling me how much time he gave him, and it probably was dependent on the pair, I bet. But it only makes sense, because otherwise you're kind of wasting your time,
So I got a pair together, from last year, and if those babies don't start showing me something, if I'm flying them every day, if they don't start showing me something within 6-8 months, they're probably not going to make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like I say, there again, I learned that my sloppy seconds team, they were birds that I didn't think were going to make it. They were my call pin. Yeah. And then they end up being pretty solid pigeons, and I still have a lot of them in my A team. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on, what you're comfortable waiting on.
What do you think? What do you relate that to, Steve? I mean, was it just time, you think, on those birds, or what?
I don't know if it was the time, or, it's like when you're flying young birds, and sometimes, you see 2 or 3 in there that are just killing it, and you pull them out, and then the next thing you know, there's 2 or 3 more in there that start killing it, and you're like, oh crap, I thought I was done pulling out of that kit. And I think some of them are just slower developers, and some of them may just not work as well with other birds too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, because there has to be some kind of nucleus there that they want to work together with those other birds. I mean, I think that I think it's a thing, you know?
No.
It's kind of like that it's I think it's a trait, and that they learn to kind of like trigger at the same time. I don't know, man, but it's
Right.
and it's all the cultivation, man, because like you were saying, like once you find those pairs, they're hit pairs and they're producers. Then that's the time when you start bringing a shitload of birds. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And versus trying to put too many birds together and try to figuring them out, and keep on breeding and breeding off of so much. I think once you got that one nucleus within the birds, man, that's when you start breeding out and
Right.
maybe create 2-3 pairs out of what you bred out, bring back in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, and then there was one year, I guess it's probably been maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Gabe and I were talking on the phone, and we're like, hey, or he's talking, he's like, you ought to just grab those uh, uh, birds and just breed off your A team, your 11 bird, 20 bird, whatever it was. And I just took a bunch of those birds that I had, and I threw them right in the stock off and started raising birds off them. And lo and behold, the next year I did have better pigeons. I had better kits.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was picking the birds that worked well together, I think, and bringing them into the stock loft was kind of cool too. Instead of picking individual birds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
I mean,
I like the bully system, because if you find that cock, they just say that you bred out and you flew for an amount of years and tested them back and put them back put them in the breeder loft, test them out, and they did well.
yes,
Then you have the main source right there, right? And now you
right,
get your best hens, and you're trying that cock with your best hens, and you start getting a good result. The a big percentage of it is coming from that cock. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And you just gotta see the best ones out of, like, let's say 4 hens, and if you out of 3 hens you get better birds out of than this one hen, take her out.
It's
You know what I mean?
right.
And
Yeah,
then
you sounds like you've been talking to Dave Mosley a little bit.
yeah, Dave Mosley and
He
George
does
Mason, man.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
he used to have 10 pair that he bred out of, and then had 10 new pair, or you know what I mean,
yeah,
and rotate his birds like that. And that was kind of how he decided if they made it in the stock loft or not, too,
yeah.
because they had to produce good pigeons.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
and once you get there to that point, man, you don't need 20 pairs.
Absolutely. So at this point, I still think I need 20 pair.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
feel
I'm still, 7, 8 years into this, and still feeling some days that I need to do that. I might be wrong at this point. I think if I did select and was a little more hard on my birds, as far as getting into the breeding loft,
yeah.
I think I'd be better off if I did cut down a little bit.
Yeah, now I know, like, Brian McCormick is doing good with these Irish birds, and you know, and I know he in the way he flies is he separates the cocks and the hens.
Right.
Is that something that you practice now? And if not, since he's doing good with those Irish birds, would you think that you're gonna want to go that way and fly competition hens and cocks, or are you gonna stick to, let's just say, flying them together if that's what you do right now?
I used to separate hens and cocks, and I mean, hens seem like they're a better bird day in, day out when you just fly them together. Cock birds they can be a better kit, but you only get it once out of every. They're not as consistent as the hens.
Yeah.
So I did start flying my birds together, and maybe getting rid of some of the cockier cocks, so I didn't have problems in the loft, or when they landed, all the chasing and not paying attention to what they were supposed to be doing. So I do fly birds together now. If it works for the Irish, I may go back that way, but I'm going to try to give them a chance to stay together, and so it's not such a, a hassle trying to split up birds all the time.
Yeah. Is there anything that you do to I wouldn't say prevent, but kind of regulate that issue? It says as far as cocks chasing the hens. Is that something that one could do to kind of help that problem?
Yeah, I think veer away from the cocky cocks. I
Mm.
just stay away from them. I don't use them. I remember when I first my birds were separated, and then I'd fly them together for a competition. I literally had two cockbirds that were cutting this one hen out of the kit, and and they were literally forcing her out of the kit. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think you really have to pay attention to your kit, and know what's going on to see that happen. But it can be a thing.
Yeah.
So now that they're together, I don't see that near as much. I mean, I guess I haven't seen that. And if I did see it, that cock's out of the kit.
Yeah, they could probably make the kit land early, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, just because he's cocky, he wants to, breed. That's
yeah.
all he's thinking about. If he's thinking about that, he's not working right in the air anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lately I separated my cocks and hens because like I'm dealing with nothing but like young birds, right?
Right.
And right now I noticed that they're getting mature. They're getting mature in the adult side, and I'm starting to see the cocky birds come out. But one thing I think is like, because I'm not flying as much as I was in the summer because of the BOP, so I don't know if I'm barely noticing now that I'm resting them more and they have more energy versus I used to fly them every day. So
Right.
there wasn't the energy wasn't there for that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
so what I did is I separated them, and and then I'm gonna put them back together once I'm able to fly every single day,
Well,
and see
yeah,
if I
but
could take that
I
away
mean,
from
are
them.
are you gonna fly them together and then house them separately? I
Yeah,
mean, some
I'm gonna
guys do
keep them
that too.
together. I just
Okay,
right
gotcha.
now that I'm not flying them every day, I
Right.
know they're gonna build up
Separated.
a lot of energy that it's
That's
just gonna be
that's a
too
good point.
much in the
Sure.
loft, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll start seeing eggs and all that. So I separate them, and I'll fly them together right now. Like let's just say I'll
Right.
fly them every other day or every 3 days, whatever,
Right.
and I'll keep them like that. But once I notice that the BOP ain't around, I'm gonna put them together again and fly them every single day.
Right.
Every three kits every day, and see if
Right.
I could tire them out and just get them focused on teamwork. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
And that's the key.
I'm
I
putting
think
that
that's
to
the
a
key.
test right now.
Yeah, well, let us know how it works. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
for sure.
that's good stuff to, anytime you're testing something, you're still trying to learn, man. And that's
yeah.
what we're all
You know,
about.
you gotta apply it in
It's good
order
stuff.
to really know it, because either that or
Absolutely.
you just hearing it from someone, and you're never knowing whether it's true or not. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Like I
So
say, I
yeah.
always heard I mean, back in the day, it was always keep your hens and cocks separate and then
Mhm.
fly them together. I just didn't work as well because when they do land, you got cockbirds are going, how
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah.
And it
I
just,
believe that the trade
they're
is
not focused.
yeah, I believe the trade is within them, with whether the cocks and hen,
Sure.
and they should be able to work together, keep up together. But
Yes.
like when the energy is there, you're gonna notice it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And
Yeah,
when they
there's probably
can't,
a
Yeah,
yeah, there's probably a combination of things.
yeah,
I mean, it could be a genetic factor too, how that bird is bred, and maybe his father was the same way. It could be the amount of daylight you have, compared to,
yeah,
the short days right now compared to the
sure.
long days
yeah,
of summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's probably a
Well,
lot
I
of
mean,
things.
this time of year, your birds aren't real cocky because they're really not, in the spring fling of things. So I think in the late fall or in the winter time, you really don't have to worry about that much anyway. But
yeah,
in the
Yeah,
spring, when the world wakes back up,
yeah,
nature I think tells these birds, hey, let's get it on, let's get this rolling.
yeah.
yeah.
So in the spring is probably a little more detrimental than in the fall, I believe.
You have Sam Sprigg says, "Hey Steve, can you talk about your record keeping and how it's evolved over the past few years, specifically talking about each individual kitbird?"
Hmm. you know, I keep good records, you know, but I don't know. I don't look at that. I don't look at the breeding records at all when I'm picking kid birds out. You know, they have nothing to do with what I got going in the air. So, I mean, breeding records are really just for, you know, so I'm not putting brother and sisters together. Um, I don't, you know, records don't really make them spin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So could you grab any bird in your law for now, and you could go back to what the parents were, or maybe what their parents were?
Absolutely. Yes. Any bird in my loft, unless I missed a band, which it seems like about every single year I miss one or
Yeah,
two
me too,
bands.
man.
Drives me bananas. I got one that I was, you know, a bird that really deserved to be stocked. And I was like, you know, I was telling Gabe, I was like, I can't find the band number. It's not in my books. I looked through every record I had, and it just drives you nuts. And you can guess, but no, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a blue check ball head. I mean, everything I got's blue check ball head, odd side, you know.
yeah.
So it's like shit. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't
That's
guess.
what happened to me with the bull system.
Yeah.
I thought I got it packed down to where I could remember, right?
Right.
I fostered the eggs from the four hens,
Oh
and
yeah.
and and then I was like, shit, I don't even know what's for what. I like,
Yeah, you just added a whole new
and I
level
grabbed all
to
the eggs, and
record
I
books.
threw
Yeah,
all the eggs. I was just
yeah,
like, damn it, and
yeah.
it just, I couldn't. I mean, I could have bred out them and know who the dad was. You know what I mean?
I was really good at when I do foster something that I'm going, okay, it's this pair's eggs fostered under, you know, number 10. You know, one went to 10, you know, hatched two out, and but they bank it back to the original parents when I write their band numbers down in the book. But
Mhm.
you know, keeping good records is important,
Yeah.
but not detrimental. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
know, you know what it is though. Keeping good records on prepping your bird for competition, that is very good. You know, like you know what, when is your World Cup fly gonna be, where your 20 bird fly is gonna be for the fall fly, and keeping good work records of where it, how do you fly, and how do you feed, would keep it almost on point all the time. You know what I'm saying?
oh,
Compare
absolutely.
on the
I think
weather.
yeah, I think that's huge, and I think you know the day and age with the cell phone right now, you can sit there and take notes while you're flying your birds
Yeah.
all day long and never miss a beat, and then you go back later and talk and pull your notes up and go, oh, okay, that bird needs to be pulled out because you know it might have been the first kit you flew this you know in the morning, and by
Mhm.
the time you're to your third kit, you already forgot what bird that was.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
what I like to do with the cell phone, like, because you may have two lavenders, but one has a missing feather or something. But anyhow,
Sure.
when I catch a bird, like an outbird or something, a bird that's not with the kit, I take a picture, man. I take a picture, and I
Sure.
could blow up the picture, and I could see that bird, man, and
Yeah.
I'll find that bird with the
Oh yeah,
picture.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I just recently got the new iPhone that's out there, but the picture, man, stabilization
Clear.
on it, I could go so
Right.
close to it.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like I could be flying my birds and take a picture, and I'll be
Yeah.
counting them. I say, oh man, there's two missing. You know what I mean? Like, where
Yeah.
they at? You know what I mean? And
Right.
I'll see the pictures that are there, and then till the end, I'll see those two come in. I'll say, man. So if they keep on
Where
doing
were
that,
they? Right.
I already know which two are they. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're not on the
absolutely. Sure.
picture. So
Right.
when I come down, I just track them down. But yeah, it's good, man. With
It,
technology
it
nowadays, we make it better. You know?
absolutely. And Brian, you know, he records. So he records his stuff the way it sounded like to me on the podcast you guys have with him.
Yeah.
I mean, and then he watches it later. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
not to that. I don't. I'm not to that level. He's him and Gabe are on a whole new level anyway.
yeah,
I'd like
yeah.
to lock them both up into a room. They'd probably drive each other crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Invite me, invite
but
me in
taking
that
the
room right
notes,
there, bro.
right, and taking the notes and you know the pictures, like when a bird lands early. Man, I got tons of pictures of on my phone that are
Mhm.
just birds that landed early. There'd be a
Yeah.
bird there or two birds there, and I'm like.
Yeah,
And when I go looking back when I'm getting ready to breed, if those birds were birds that landed early, I got to ask, why did they land early? Was it something I did, or is it a genetic flaw?
Yeah.
So I can kind of monitor that from from kit to kit as well.
I do little things too, like let's just say, I breed out a lavender, right? And
Yeah.
and I got in a black. I'll put I'll band them all on the right side and whatnot. But if I get another lavender, I'll put it on the left side. You know what I'm saying? Or I get another
so you
black,
can,
I put it on the back. So when I take a picture, I know that I see the band on either the right or the left, so I know which lavender
it's a
it
good
is. You know
idea.
what I mean?
Right.
Versus
Good
having to
idea.
mark them with the spray paint. I
Right.
don't like doing the spray paint no more. It just I don't know, when the birds come down, I don't like my birds looking like a rainbow. You know what I mean? Like,
I
so
agree.
but
Yeah, I don't know. You come to my house, you see spray paint,
so
man.
I
I
started
can't help
doing
myself.
that, and George Mason taught me how to put paste a little half a feather and the end sticking out an inch from the middle of the feather on the tail.
Right.
Man, that works good, bro.
Notching them. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started doing that, and I know, like, man, so especially like on the same colors, like the cells, blacks and
Sure.
lavenders, I'll swap
Right.
their bands, or I'll put one of my personal band, because I
Right.
got different colors. So like, let's
Sure.
say if I got four lavenders on one of them's gonna have the
One
band on the
band,
right
one
side, and
have
one is a
two.
red one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
right on.
yeah,
That's a good idea.
yeah.
I mean, I would still, at my age, I'd still probably misconstrue all that. It'd still make it difficult on me. You know what I mean? I mean, it's funny because back in the day, Danny Horner and I, it was in the early 90s. We had both just gotten birds from Richard Jackinet. And he's saying, man, my blue checks are just tearing it up. And I was like, wow, it's amazing because a lot of my blue checks are doing it too. He says, let's make a couple kits of blue checks, just blue checks. So he takes 20 blue checks, puts them together, and I put 20 blue checks, and they were fantastic kits. And it was time to start selecting some of them birds out for the breeding loft. Hell, it was 3 weeks before you could even get one out because they all looked exactly the same. It was the dumbest thing. He's like, that was the dumbest thing we ever came up with, to put blue checks all together. And it was good times, though.
But I mean,
Good times.
you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah.
You should be able to have a whole team of blacks and know which one is which, if you know how to kind of mark them
Yeah,
certain ways.
you should be. That's why I got 6 different colors of marker paint out in my yard.
That's why, and I learned a lot of this from Dave Mosley, man. He probably messaged me. I made a couple videos of spray painting the birds. He's like, he sent me a message, all it says, why are you doing that? I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You're
Right.
marking the pigeons. That looks awful. That's ugly. I said, well, I got to tell them apart. Because no, there's a lot of ways you can tell them apart. And, he started schooling me. I was like, oh, man, that shit makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, tail cover. I mean, if I want to look that close, I could probably do that. A lot of times I've had to come where, what the tail cover, what breast feather, something does
on the
show
blacks.
up. But when they're 150 foot up in the air, even, and that's kind of low, 150 foot up in the air, and you got, 3 black white flights up there. What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
you know what? I'm going to throw some paint.
Black, you got to, let's say, all black, or even a bird that has white flights and all black, right? If you put a white feather on the middle of the tail, sticking out 1 inch, man, you're going to spot it out. I mean,
sure.
you will spot
I agree
it out,
with that.
bro. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I don't know if I have the patience to do that. I look for the easy way, man. I don't know. I try to keep it simple. It's like, I'm holding this bird by its wings, and just one side's, going to be purple. And then you have newbies come over and say, man, that bird's got purple. How did you get that color? We raise them like that.
They come out that way.
They come out of the egg that way.
So do you plan on in the future going out and judge more, now when you get the time, or how do you feel about
Absolutely,
judging?
yeah. I'm up for judging. Absolutely. I'm up for trying to help somebody out because, it's tough. And for us to support this thing and do the right things, I think we need to all step up and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a couple of days off work, and I'm going to go do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, like you said earlier about, some of the clubs getting smaller and stuff. I think if we make a little bit of an effort, I think we can probably keep some guys around, or, find new guys. But,
Yeah.
we all have to make that effort at the same time. I unfortunately had to turn a couple guys down, when we're qualifying about the same time they are, or something. I want to be home for that. But if it fits into, uh, the schedule where I'm done flying already, or it doesn't interrupt what I'm doing, I'd love to. I don't have a problem with that. I love people,
We
all types.
recently on our
I even
last
like you a little bit,
yeah,
Darren.
recently on our last fly, we had Mike Golden come and judge our birds, and he he sent a message to our RD, and he's like, "Hey man, this is what I'm gonna be looking for, to scoreable kit, scoreable break, and these are some of the faults that I don't want to see." Now, is there something that you would like to, you know, what you could say that you're looking for to score, and what's a fault? Let's just say like, you know, waterfall or whatever. What do you look for?
I mean, I guess we all have, everything's opinionated when it comes to judging, because we don't have a set system. We got what is acceptable as a role from this spectrum to this spectrum. I couldn't say that I would like to set the guys up and tell them, hey, this is what I want to see. You know what I mean? I think the guys that are competing, unless they're a new guy, they already know what good pigeons are, and how, they need to be working together in a 20 bird kit, and they just need to be active in an 11 bird kit. I don't know. I think when you break it down, is there actually, because it's so opinionated, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if I could actually do that. I'm just going to do the best I can when I get to your house to give you undivided 20 minutes of, what you got coming.
Right.
I don't know. I like, in a 20 bird, like you say, you'd like to see birds work together. Is every bird perfect? Maybe not. But if they're working together, I think they're trying.
Yeah.
I guess it's just what you see. I mean, my standards are pretty high. I know what a good pigeon's supposed to look like,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean I'm gonna, hold every pigeon to that high standard. I think a lot of us may make that mistake. Is just a good old roller is sometimes a great kit bird.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I mean, as long as you what you look for is the same thing in every kid, and let the
Absolutely.
best ones win. You know what I mean?
I would love to see every bird come straight down, snap, right back to the
Yeah,
kit.
yeah,
You don't see every bird doing that.
yeah,
I mean, I try to select for that when my birds come out. I like them to come out snappy. I like to see them stop and head right back to the kit.
yeah,
But every single pigeon in every single kit is not going to be that bird.
No.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I like
some
to
of the
see.
professionals,
I like to see
some
more like birds actually set up, boom, where you could actually know, like you got that instinct. Oh, they're about to hit
oh
right
yeah,
now. You know what I mean?
here they're
And
gonna hit, or they're gonna fly through it, one or the other.
they have
They
Right.
got
enough.
that little lift
Yeah,
and set up,
boom,
and then bam, they
bam, yeah,
go. But
yeah,
it's also badass when and I see at my house often is when these birds, they'll set up, bust, and then they'll turn and they're flying almost away from me, and then all of a sudden no setup, and they just hit the wall. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I love seeing that too. But you
yeah,
Yeah.
gotta be on your toes and be ready for it too.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I love these pigeons. I just gonna judge them the best I can.
Nice, nice. Well,
I mean, we talk about judging a lot, and judging isn't easy,
No,
but
absolutely not.
I think every judge, that usually shows up, try to do their best.
Absolutely, yes.
They
yeah,
try.
I don't see anybody trying to screw nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see that.
yeah,
We got, like I said, 99.9% of these guys are all good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they'd ever set it out to screw you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if they make a mistake in your yard, that can happen.
Yeah. That can happen. No
I'll,
And
doubt.
I
I'll,
could be one of those guys that could make it, because I'll have a hiccup every once in a while. I'm human.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Like, if we could have more judges with a resume. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you say, start off, like you within your region, and support each other, learn
Yeah,
how to break,
sure.
and then be like, you know what? Yeah, Steve judged Tennessee Fall Fly World Cup in Kentucky. Boom, boom. So
Right.
that's building up the
Th-
career. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
that's fine, but that's fine. But on the other hand of that spectrum is, sometimes a guy might not, he just don't like you, and as a judge, and you
Yeah.
may get a bad,
Yeah.
you know, he may not recommend you. You know what I
Okay.
Yeah.
mean? For
Yeah.
lack of better terminology, and you might have been just a good judge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that kind of can play into it too. But I brought up several times, and I think some guys misconstrued what I was saying. I said, if we could do a little video for one of our better judges that comes through and has the most experience, these guys could probably all get together and do a little video. And I'm not saying video pigeons themselves, but video how they judge. What's acceptable, what's going to be your margin that you're looking for from a 1.0 to a 2 or whatever. I think if that was explained a little better to some of our judges, and just like when you go take your motorcycle temp test, you got to answer those 25 questions properly before you can before you can judge.
Right.
How about something like that? Would that be something that
Yeah.
I think it would be something that would help the guys.
Yeah, I think
And
that'd be a
knowing
good
that they
idea,
were all
Ray.
on the
What do you
same
think?
page,
Yeah,
Suggested it over and over,
I,
man.
I
I
think
keep
we
saying it. The same thing.
I think we should
I mean,
put
all it
together.
takes is it's. I mean, it wouldn't take a lot to do that. That's the thing about it.
I
You
think
know,
No, it would not.
what we should do is we should put together a questionnaire, right? On what we want to, what knowledge do we want, or what are we lacking on, and put a list of it, and maybe we could get 3 really good judges on here, and
Right.
just go by that. I mean, just like go at it.
I
Every
mean, the
single
best way
judge.
would be a spectrum of judges.
Yeah.
That way you have different levels, maybe
different
even
levels.
two,
Right.
to kind of help make a better average.
I mean, I've always said things like, when it comes to depth, that there should be a chart.
Yeah.
That depth chart,
Yeah.
1.0, 1.1 is 10 feet. Now, 10 feet to me may be different. I mean, the way you see it may be a
I've
little
seen it with every judge that's been
right.
on.
Right. It may be different, but
Yeah.
but if you're estimating 10 feet and I'm estimating 10 feet, and the guy that owns the kit now knows that 1.0 to 1.1 is 10 feet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
He don't even have to ask.
Or is that even the place to start? I mean, I think that on the right, even on the depth thing, I think that's more like this instead of like this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, because honestly, from 10 to 40 feet is probably what you're ever going to see in your life that are solid pigeons. I mean, yes, there's an exceptional deep birds. I'm not taking away from those birds, but when we're looking at most kits, you're going to see from 10 to 40 feet. So do we need all those numbers in between? Probably not. I think it would simplify it if it was, 1 is 10 feet. 1 is 10 feet, 1-2 is 20 feet, 1-3 is 30 feet, 1-4 is 40 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I like to see. Like, in real life you could only go to a certain amount, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it'll bring everybody more into a better understanding and being more on point, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think that that'll be something really pretty cool to maybe put together, man, and
Well, I think so
let's get a
too.
few judges on here, and we could ask the questions and just have them explain it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that.
I mean, it brings you closer. It doesn't answer every question.
Yeah.
But it does bring you closer to where you want to be.
Right. And like I say, if they could make up a questionnaire and these guys could all, I mean, because there might be some really good or really bad managers, flyers that could make some really good judges.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Because we've seen it the other way around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've seen some really bad judges that are excellent flyers too. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if we had some kind more, I don't know, just some guidelines, I think would help all of our judges, and then they know when they go to your house, this is what I got to look for.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, like even like like duration. You know what I mean? What's your understanding? So how do I know? You know, what is the one stopwatch go stop? Well, it says
Right.
1.5. You know what I
Right.
mean? You know, what's your understanding? If we could put it together and say, man, out of these three judges that we just went and had, and we did this panel interview on them on judging, you know, it came close to this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think that'd be pretty good. That'd be a good
I think
idea.
it would be too. I use like the telephone pole method. It's about 30 foot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what I use, and I just imagine that up in the air, and kind of that's how I pull off of it. Yeah, there's some exceptions where you're just sitting there going 1001, 1000, holy about 1004, you know,
Yeah.
bam, and the bird finally comes out at 1005, and you're like, holy shit, that's a deep bird. I mean, you're going to see that on occasion, but most of the time in competitions, you're probably not going to. So
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, when even when guys call in 9 or an 11 bird break, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a guy out there that will call a 9 just because he didn't think that the birds deserved the 11 bird break. You know what I mean? We had that recently in one of our flies as a judge, and I think that was, and you probably know who I'm talking about, but not to, you know, be harsh on that person, but I think everybody else may think differently. If 9 birds go, you score 9 birds. If 11 birds go, you give him that 11. I don't care if he doesn't want to give that bonuses for the double up. That's still not the way the rules are wrote.
That's right. I totally agree.
And then
I mean,
me as like if I was to go out and judge, like out the surroundings, you know, like man, this dude has a lot of structures around him. He probably don't cultivate for deep birds. You know what I'm saying? So
correct.
he
Yeah,
probably
good
know
call.
where in the range he is versus someone that in you know has land and birds
Right.
have room
Well,
to
and
you know what I mean?
and guys that they got a small backyard, and like you said, there's a lot of structure, and they got a low-fi family. You don't want a bunch of deep birds
Yeah,
because they're going to be in every neighbor's yard you got.
exactly. So
Right.
you kind of, you know, you have an idea what the flyer is actually cultivating for by where they live
Sure,
at. You know what I'm
sure,
saying? So, I
sure.
mean,
But I mean, you still got to judge them for what you see.
What
I
you see.
mean, you know,
yeah,
Right.
give the birds what they have coming, not the owner of them birds.
Right.
yeah, right
Right.
on, right on.
Period. You
Man, you
know,
know what? We could keep on going here for a long time. There's a lot
right
of
on,
questions that I'd like to ask, but we actually got a club meeting going on that I want to go rush to. You know what I mean? But
right on.
before we leave,
I see.
man.
I see where I stand now, Bub.
Yeah.
I see.
Hey,
It's all good.
before we leave, man, give us, you know, some word of advice for those of us that are coming into the hobby new or been in the hobby and hasn't had much luck or whatever, man. What do you got to say for those that have that passion within the hobby, man?
Well, you know, reading the books is a really good thing, but you also got to understand what these old timers that started this stuff were really meaning. So maybe ask more questions to some of the guys when they're saying to cut back the feed or change your fly time or whatever, you know, and something else too. I wish everybody else out there in all your clubs help a brother out, help each other. You know what I mean? If you could help each other, help each other. If you're just doing it to be ornery and not help somebody, you know, it's not helping your club, it's not helping your birds, and it's not sure as hell not going to help the new guy that's coming up and really wants to do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you know, ask the questions. I mean, sum it up. Yeah, ask a lot of questions. And if anybody ever needs to know anything and I can help somebody, hit me up. I'm all over Facebook or whatever. You
Right
know.
on, man. I appreciate you being on here. Thanks to all of you, the viewers out there. Follow us on the next episode. Maybe Steve, you could have a little talk with the Levenberg champ. Maybe we could get him on here, man, and put him
He's
on.
tough, man.
You know,
He don't like to be in the spotlight.
hey,
And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, this is going to be kind of nerve wracking. But it's just like, man, we're just pigeon guys
hell yeah,
Yeah.
bullshitting.
man.
You know what I
You
mean?
kind of
Yeah,
forget
man.
that you're on the podium. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's
As
pretty.
bad as he always says that, you know, he don't like the public speaking and talking in front of anybody. And I know he's probably listening right now. When he stands up and we're at a club meeting and he's our president, this guy's a
Mhm.
freaking leader. He's a
Yeah,
freaking
he's good
leader.
at it.
He
That's right.
takes the bull by the horns.
I
You'll
know.
never hear a hiccup out of him. He speaks fluently. Everybody understands him. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and he's a good dude too, but don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, no, I mean I know he is. The first time I met him and I filmed him, I put it out there. He's gonna be a champ, you know, and
Yeah, oh
shit,
yeah.
man, he's already 2 times, you know.
The first time Richard and I went down there, and I, you know, we were like, hey, he's got some pretty good birds, but just listening to Gabe talk on the way home, I was like, he's going to make us work. And Richard said the same thing. He says he's going to make us better, and he
Uh-huh.
has.
Uh-huh.
He has
Shout out
made us better.
to you, Gabe Glenn. You're a really good friend, and yeah, we're inviting you over, man. We ain't taking no for an answer. So
Yeah, there you go. That's what you got to do.
so the next
Maybe you
episode
can.
is Gabe Glenn, people.
Maybe what you do is we can set him up. If he's not listening right now, we can set him up. I can be at his place, hook up to his Wi-Fi, click on the link, point the phone at him, bub.
Hell
He's
yeah,
trapped,
that's what
back
we're gonna
against
do,
the
man.
wall.
Nowhere to run. Nowhere to run, Gabe.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, if I get him in the pigeon loft, he'll talk all day, bro.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
for
for
sure,
sure.
man. But like I said, man, I wanna thank you for joining us today, and we have so much more to cover. But you know, from these podcasts, we get little by from different people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, it's
So
awesome.
it's a
You
great
guys are doing
thing.
a great job.
Hey, I
You guys do a
appreciate you,
great job.
and I want to apologize that I haven't been on here, me and Ray, but we, the break's been pretty good, man. You know what I
That's
mean?
all right. It's
Yeah,
all good. I appreciate you guys having me.
but
Like
all
I say,
right,
I
Thank you,
loved it. It
Steve.
was a good time.
Thanks, man.
Thank you guys.
and
Good to
like I
see you
said, I
again.
want to thank everybody for joining us, and I want everybody to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and go at it. Get ready for the next competition, man. We're coming. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Hey, and I'm proud of all you champs that ended up in the top.